Okay, what a day for a daydreaming boy. So the first player on the list for me, and this is in no particular order, is Joe Musgrove. Very interested to see how he does in the second half of the season. Started 8-0, but has kind of struggled lately. So he's lost 2 of his last 4 decisions. He's got 2 no decisions in his last couple games. But he still has an excellent season. He's 8-2, 102 Ks, 23 walks, 2.42 ERA, 287 total points, which ranks him 11th in pitchers. So obviously he's still excellent. But again, he has struggled lately. In his last 4 games, he's given up 14 home runs. Wouldn't that be something? 14 earned runs. He did have a 10K game against the Dodgers where he pitched 7 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, and 1 walk. Did get the loss in that one. But again, he has struggled a bit lately. So I'm very curious to see what he does. Obviously, he had such a good start to the year. It'll be interesting to see how he does. The next player on the list has got to be Tony Gonsolin. Kind of think he can keep it up. I've watched several YouTube videos on trading players at their high point, sell high, buy low, that kind of thing. And I'm not necessarily sold on the fact that Tony Gonsolin can't keep it up. I don't think he's going to go undefeated. It'd be cool if he did, but I don't think he's going to go undefeated. But can he win 20 games on the Dodgers? Sure. I mean, why not? I don't know if he will, but there's certainly a chance that he can. And he also does have a history of, pitching pretty well. If you look at his career numbers, which actually I do a video on, he's got ERAs in the mid-2s, and it's not crazy to think that maybe he can finish with a 2.3 ERA. Now, I know he's got a 2.02 ERA right now. So if he gets 2.3, 2.4, obviously he's going to have to, struggle a little bit and not keep pace with what he's doing now. So you could argue that, well, you should sell him now if he's going to do a 2.4, 2.5 ERA, because like a Joe Musgrove, he's got to have some bad games in that stretch. But I mean, he pitched 11 games for the Dodgers in 2019, had a 2.93 ERA. I know he didn't start every game, so that's not necessarily a great comparison, but then he's got a 2.31 ERA with 8 games started in 2020 and 13 games started in last year. He's got a 3.23 ERA, so okay, 3.23. But then he comes back, he's got a 2.02 ERA, coincidentally the same whip, 0.84, that he had in 2020. Not a huge sample size, obviously, with him. So again, you don't really know what you're going to get. So I can understand people saying, hey, maybe you should sell him high because how much better can he do? He's got to kind of fall off. But again, he's on the Dodgers. Again, I don't think it would shock anybody if he won 20 games. And so it'll be interesting to see if he does win 20 games. Obviously, wins count for something. You get some guys with a great ERA, but if they're playing on bad teams, they can still lose the game. I know I've had the problem where guys have lost games. They've given up 1 earned run, and they'll lose the game because they have no run support. So that's probably not going to happen with Gonsolin. Obviously, anything can happen. But, again, Dodgers have such a great offense, such a great team that you never know what can happen. So, very interested to see how he does. Aaron Nola is next on the list. He has 310 points on the year, which ranks him 7th among pitchers. Speaking of win-loss records, he's 6-7. So this is a great comparison between Now he has a 3.13 ERA, but it's a great comparison on, from a guy that isn't on the best team necessarily to a guy that is 11-0, where he can have an off night and still win the game. Aaron Nola, it's going to be tough for him to have an off night and still win the game. Again, 6-7, 137 Ks, only 16 walks. He leads the league in walks per 9 innings. I think it's 1.1 or something like that, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's 1.1 walks per 9. Best of his career. Currently leads the National League. He's got quite a few 8 to 10K games. I think 7 out of his last 10 are at least 6 strikeouts or better. But again, he's kind of had an up and down season, with the exception of his last game where he pitched 8 1/3, 4 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, and 10 Ks. He gave up 5 runs in his previous start, 3 runs prior to that, and then 4 runs prior to that, although he did pick up a win in one. But again, this is another guy that I'm very interested to see how he does. 0.9 WHIP, again, the 3.13 ERA. It should be very interesting to see how he does, and I'm looking forward to it. Next on the list, I'm going to go with, let's see who just popped up. Corbin Burns, the reigning Cy Young Award winner. He's 7-4, 144 Ks, 29 walks, 2.14 ERA, 0.9 WHIP, 344 points, which ranks him 3rd. And he did have a bit of a rough stretch. So in early June, he had a bit of a rough stretch. But in his last 6 games, he's had 22, 32, 24, 21, 27, and 23 fantasy points. He's 6-2 in his last 8. 7 out of his last 10 games, he's had strikeouts of 8 or more. He's had, 6 out of his last 15 have been 10K or more performances. So obviously he's having a heck of a season. And again, 344 points. Could he win the Cy Young? I don't think it's out of, I don't think it's out of reason that he could do it again. With those types of numbers, again, if he continues that progress, here's another guy that is obviously having a hell of a season. And it's going to be very interesting to see if he can keep it up. I'm very excited to see if he can keep it up. Good old Milwaukee Brewers had to bust out the hat. Need plenty more, of course. But yeah, so it's going to be fun to see how he does. And the last guy on the list, and a little bit of a personal favorite, obviously, if you've been following the channel at all, is Sandy Alcantara, because he's on my fantasy team. And he's only on my fantasy team because I got lucky. Didn't know who at the start of the year, because I'm just getting into it. If you guys have been following the channel, just getting into fantasy baseball again, so it has been a lot of fun. And yeah, I had no idea who Sandy Alcantara is. Had no idea who Freddie Freeman was. It shows you how long I've been out of the game. But yeah, Sandy Alcantara, #1 in fantasy points and pitchers. I wouldn't be shocked if he wins the Cy Young this year, especially if he keeps it up. But he's got 138 innings pitched, 92 hits, only 27 earned runs, 123 Ks, 33 walks. He's 9-4 on the year. And to be honest, he should have a better record than that. That's how well he's been pitching. So yeah, obviously since he's on my team, I hope he keeps it up. And being on Miami is interesting, I remember back in the day, every time Miami, Florida would win a World Series, their next year they tanked because they had to sell off everybody. So, it'll be interesting to see how Sandy does. Again, 384 points. He ranks #1 in pitching. But, I mean, his performances, he has more 30-point games in his last 12, or actually last 13. He's got more 20-point games than he has single-digit games. You'd have to go back to 15 games ago, May 1st, to have a game in which he posted a negative number. He had -2 fantasy points on May the 1st. Since then, he's never had a negative number. He had 3 against San Diego the following start. Then he follows it up with nothing but 20-point games in his last 13 except 2. And he had the one game against the Mets where he pitched 7 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, only 4 Ks, got the loss. But that was his only game that he's given up 4 earned runs or more in his last 14 games. So he's just, I mean, you see all these numbers where, you know, he gives up 2, 0, 0, 2, had the 4, but 2, 2, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 2. So obviously he's having a great year. I got super lucky, like I said, for picking him up, for drafting him. And yeah, hey, so I'm going to run with him, have him all year, and see how he does. So anyway, so those are the pitchers that I'm looking forward to watching. Certainly not an exhaustive list, but anyway, those are my top 5. Thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you soon.